we are going to look at the third function of management, which is staffing. Of late, we actually do not use the word staffing more. Staffing is the process of identifying the manpower requirements of an organization and filling the positions with those set of employees who are having the skill, knowledge, and the abilities to do the work. In one simple sentence, if we have to define what staffing is, identifying a right person for a right job is what you call as staffing. Picking a right person for a right job. So, up until now, we've looked at what planning is and how decision making and planning are integral to each other. In planning, we've seen it as a process where a manager sets the objectives and decides on how to achieve the objectives. So basically, the guidelines for action for a business are set up by the manager by going with the first function of management, which is planning. Now, once you establish the goals, once you set the SMART goals for the business, the second function of management involves organizing. If planning is about setting objectives and making sure that you provide the guidelines of how to achieve the objectives, number two, organizing as a managerial function is about dividing the work and assigning the work to concerned people. So, what we do in organizing is once the goal is set, in order to accomplish the goal, how should you divide the work between the various positions of an organization so that the goal is going to be successfully accomplished? So, organizing is one of the key functions or second function that managers perform after planning. So, when you're organizing, you're dividing the work. Division of work leads to work specialization. So, the target of dividing the work between the members is to bring in specialization in the job positions where repetitively performing the same task is going to be increasing the productivity of that employee. So, once you divide the work, it leads to specialization. If an employee is specialized in performing the same task repetitively, that is actually going to lead to increase in the productivity. So productivity is the ratio between input and output. So if we want productivity at the workplace, where we call it as a ratio between output and input, with minimum of input, you need to get the maximum of output. So productivity is about increasing the efficiency of an organization. So once you're productive, efficiency of an organization is going to increase. And with minimum input, if you get the maximum output for an organization, we know that we are accomplishing the goals of the organization. So our target, why we want to divide the work is at the end, you want the goal to be achieved. So have whatever we have set as an objective in planning, where we are defining planning as a process of establishing objectives and deciding how to achieve those objectives. So you're establishing an objective and you are also setting a course for how the objectives are to be attained. In organizing, which is a second function of managers, you're dividing the work, and once you divide the work, it leads to specialization because repetitively you're going to perform the same task. And once an employee is specialized in the performing of a certain task, that would lead to increase in productivity, where just now I said productivity is the ratio between output and input. Using minimum amount of input, you're going to get the maximum amount of output back, and increase in the productivity leads to efficiency. And efficiency is where, as I said, if you're using minimum of input and getting maximum of output, productivity increase is going to lead to efficiencies. So when we are talking about efficiency, that means we are looking at accomplishment of the goals. So when you're going for organizing as a function, that's your main target. Division of work, which is going to help you in successfully accomplishing the goal. So that means if you are successful at dividing the work correctly, and if that is going to lead to specialization, and if it is going to lead to optimum utilization of the resources, then we talk about creating productive organizations. So in organizing, we are looking at all the processes of dividing the work and assigning of the work or the activities to the concerned people. Sometimes staffing is considered as an integral part of organizing. That too, of late, staffing is considered as an integral function of organizing itself, because once you're dividing the work, it is the people who are going to decide whether the execution of the work is going to be done correctly or not. If organizing is about dividing the work and assigning the tasks that are to be done, staffing is going to answer the question of who's going to do those works. Once you divide the work, who's going to perform those works? When you're going for division of the work itself using a certain criteria, like a functional organization, if you're using a certain criteria to divide the work, you are using certain set of skill, knowledge, or an expertise as a basis for dividing the work. So obviously, when you're dividing the work and creating specific job positions, every job position demands certain skills and abilities. Now, what do we do in staffing? In organizing, if we are identifying the job positions that are to be done, that means because of division of the work, the resultant is the creation of the positions within the organization. Then, once you create the job positions, the important task is not just about creation of the job positions. It is also about filling the positions with right people. So you need to fill the positions with right set of people. That means, what do we mean when we say right set of people? What we mean when we are saying about the right set of people is making sure that you have the positions that are filled in the organization that where the people are possessing the adequate amount of skill in order to accomplish the task. So when we are defining about staffing, it is considered as a very important function or the third function of management, where it's a process of identifying a right person for the right job.